Today's session is going to have to be a quick one because I have the boys at home with me today. It's a public holiday, and I'm sure you can hear from the noise in the background. I've done my best to try and insulate so I can have a good recording. But with the screams coming through, if you're able to hear them on the microphone, I'm sure you guys will agree with me that it won't be a good idea to leave them for too long to get up to their own shenanigans. You know what little boys can do when they are left alone without adult supervision. So today is going to have to be a very quick one. So let's get into it. We're still on common perspectives in communications, and we have gone over the idea that communication is cyclical and not linear, and that there's a feedback loop involved. So it's not just a matter of you sending your message A to B, and that's the end of the story, but rather you should be concerned about how the person on the other end understands it. You get the feedback and repeat the whole process over again. And we've also gone over two items in the communications matrix, and that is the source and message. And we've also gone over how you need to have really clear intent and surrounding your message. So what is it that you want to say? What's the information that you want to pass across? And what is the effect that you would like to achieve when you send your message from point A to B? Now, today we're going to look at two other items that are also tightly related, and that is encoding and the channel. Now, for those of you who've listened for a bit, if you've caught the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes, you remember that my definition for encoding anyway was basically how you put things across in an easy to share format. So the question of encoding is, let's say we have this piece of information that I want to pass across. Do I do it in a voice note? Do I do it in an SMS? Do I do it in an email? Let's see, what else? Should I do it face to face? Those are the questions that you have to juggle with basically when you're looking at encoding and the channel. So encoding is putting things across in a shareable format, and then of course that is closely related to the channel. The channel. So those things go interchangeably. So with the example that I gave, if I'm going to make things, if I'm thinking that I ought to encode this in a text format, then the channels are going to be either SMS, email, or let's see what else. SMS, email, okay, written, maybe the written form. Okay, for these purposes, let's accept the written form as text as well. Okay, yeah. So let's just take the written form as text as well. So basically, these are the questions that you have to consider when you're asking yourself the question. So you've decided on what the message is and the intent that you want to pass across. And so at this stage of encoding and channel, you're now wondering what is the most appropriate means for sending across this message. Should it be text? Should it be voice? And then once you decide on the best way to encode the message, then you now worry about the format. If it's going to be text, should it be a letter? Should it be an SMS? Or should it be an email? Or if it's going to be voice that you think is the best way to encode the message, then you're wondering, should that be a phone call or should we be face-to-face? Or, on and on, different considerations. So I think I'll just wrap it up here so I can run back to the boys. And I think, hopefully, we've done enough to give you guys a sense of how it's the different factors involved when it comes to putting across the message. And it's not just as simple a matter as there's me, there's the other person, and then I hit send. So far, we've gone over the source and the message. We have to be absolutely clear about the message and our intent. And then we now have to figure out what's the best format. Should it be voice or should it be text? And then that will determine the channel, whether it's going to be SMS, phone call, or whatever it is that you choose. But bottom line, none of these things are fixed. So when it comes to encoding and the channel, there are no hard and fast rules. It has to be according to whatever it is appropriate in that situation. For instance, much earlier in my career, the first architecture shoot that I did, This was a high net worth individual who's been involved in Nigeria in the political space and also in the corporate space. I was shooting one of his mansions on Minister's Hill in Maitama, and at the time I thought he was being off-putting, but I've realized that a lot of these high net worth folks, it's just the way they roll, and understandably so, because a lot of people want stuff for them. People want their time and attention. And so basically, this dude never responded to any of my phone calls. Everything was pretty much through texts, or I had to call the handler to be able to get through to him. So it's possible that if you're dealing with a situation and a context like I was back then in the day, that when it comes to encoding and the channel, it has already been determined for you. So for me, it was SMS, and that was it. So SMS, and he would respond. He was not going to respond to any other thing. So sometimes it's determined for us. Sometimes we have a say in the matter. My own personal preference and my advice, what I advise during classes and in-person sessions, is that face-to-face, my hierarchy is face-to-face and then voice before text, and then on and on. So if you can make it a face-to-face thing, you should, because that'll be the best avenue for you to pass across your message with nuance, and for you to be able to get feedback, because you'll be able to see the way people are responding, body language, stuff like that. If face-to-face is out of the equation, and let's say video is out of the equation as well, because I'll say video is a close analog for face-to-face, at least in a business context anyway, then it'll be phone call and then text message, and for me, email is at the bottom. But we'll discuss some of these things in more detail when I have a bit more time. But the next time that I show up here, we're going to be looking at the last elements of the matrix as I put it out. That's decoding, and that has to do with what happens when the message has been received and understood, the receiver, the feedback, and then the context of the communications. And again, remember, if you look at any communications textbook, if you happen to have a younger brother or sister who is still in school, you're going to find a whole lot more than what I have listed out here. So the whole point of this is just to expose you guys to stuff that my father talked to me about a couple of years ago, and just open up your eyes to the fact that communications is it's a nuanced business. So it's not just as simple as hit send and then problem solved. So the whole point is not to be technically accurate or technically complete, but just to open up your eyes and lend you guys some new perspectives when it comes to communications. That's assuming you haven't already heard this stuff before. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. I will catch you guys at the next recording.